Hi, my name is Toby Guerin, and I'm the Managing Director with the Center for Dispute Resolution at the University of Maryland Francis King Carey School of Law. Today I'm going to provide some information about giving and receiving feedback. This segment will focus specifically on giving feedback. Feedback is an essential part of an attorney's life. When effective, it helps us learn and grow personally and professionally. In law firms, among colleagues, we're often in a position to give feedback to other people. These take many different forms, from edits to documents, to review of annual performance, to comments on oral arguments. Whatever the form or format, a common set of principles applies to giving feedback. Think about giving feedback with the purpose to inform or advise and not correct. We often think of feedback as an experienced person imparting their information or knowledge upon someone less experienced. This traditional structure of feedback does not lend itself to receptivity. As adults, we do not like to be told by someone else what we should or should not do. So before you provide feedback, it is helpful to ask yourself a few questions. First, what is your goal on giving the feedback? What do you want to accomplish with this feedback? Again, if the purpose is to fix someone, then it's less likely to be received in a positive way. It is more likely to be disregarded or inspire a defensive response. If your goal is to inform or raise awareness, then it is more likely to be received. So first, ask yourself this question. Second, what is the context? In what setting is this feedback being given? Is it in a public or a private setting? Most of us will prefer to get feedback in a private setting rather than in a public one in front of our peers. What experience do you have in relation to the other person? Are you perceived as a colleague, as a superior, or an inferior? This will contribute to how it's received by the other person. And what relationship do you have with this person? Is this someone that you know and you've worked with for a while, or maybe just met for the first time? The more familiar you are with the person, the more likely your feedback will be perceived as credible. Also, what is the expectation? Is the feedback expected or anticipated, or is it spontaneous? Did someone provide you with a document and say, please review this and give me comments? Did someone say, please sit in on this client interview and let me know what you think? Or did you just see something happen in a meeting and decide that you want to walk up to the person and give them some feedback? Whenever possible, try to ensure that the feedback is either expected or requested. If you're not sure, then just ask. You can say to the person, I noticed you in the meeting and I had a few comments. Would you like to know my thoughts? Would you like to have a conversation? Even that introductory question can help with the feedback. Fourth, timing. Is it a good time for you to have this conversation? And is it a good time for the receiver to have the conversation? Is the feedback even appropriate at this time? So you don't want to be providing feedback at the end of the day, on a Friday, or in the middle of a very stressful time. It is less likely to be received in a positive manner. So you want to give some consideration to that. You also want to make sure that the feedback is timely. Something that happened 3 months ago and then raising it 3 months later is not going to lead to as positive a conversation as possible. And then finally, this concept of letting go. Understand that not all feedback will impact change or even be readily heard by someone else. Trust that the person has the ability to make changes when and if they are ready. Again, if your purpose is to just inform or advise rather than fix, this concept of letting go should be fairly simple. If you decide that it is appropriate to provide feedback and the timing and context is right, then you want to provide the feedback in such a way that is more likely to be perceived as an objective statement rather than a subjective opinion. It is the perceived subjectivity of feedback that often provokes defensive responses and causes the statement to be disregarded.
That's the first part.
Okay.
Okay. So is that pace okay?
Yeah.
Where am I at time?
You just just about 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. So I'm moving a little bit quicker than before, but that's okay. All right. Okay. So there are 3 things that you want to keep in mind to make your statement to be perceived as more objective than subjective. You want to be specific, you want to be balanced, and you want to be limited in your information. By specific, I mean include examples of exact words, actions, and behaviors, including the reactions of others. Describe the situation rather than evaluate it. The statement of "you did a great job" or "I thought you could have done better" really provides no useful information for change and is perceived as the opinion of the person providing the information rather than fact. So if you were to say to someone, "It seemed as if you were not prepared as you could have been for this negotiation," that is probably going to be perceived as the opinion. And even if it's not, it really doesn't provide anything constructive with regard to feedback that the person can use. Instead, state, when opposing counsel asked you about the adjustment in property values and how that would impact the division of assets, you did not have a response. So just stating what happened, what you observed, and then what the person did can then open up that conversation in a better way than a more opinionated statement. You want the information you provide to be balanced, and there are varying views in this category. People differ on how much positive reinforcement versus negative comments they can receive. But in general, you want to be sure to provide both, and you want to make sure that there is not too much of one over the other, and that's what we mean by balanced. If you have something positive to say, definitely state it, but make sure it is substantial. Providing a positive comment that's perceived as fluff can delegitimize your later more constructive comments. Try to avoid using the words but and however. Starting out with a positive statement and then inserting the word but or however causes the listener to disregard all of the positive things that you said and only really hear what was said after the however. So for example, the statement, "Your analysis of recent case law was very comprehensive, but your application of it to this particular situation lacked clarity and consistency." The person will only hear the comment about clarity and consistency and will really not hear the positive statement you made about relevant case law and the comprehensive research. You also want to make sure you use both positive and areas of improvement because people need to know the things that they're doing well so that they're sure to continue with those. When you only focus on the things that they could improve, it doesn't reinforce the positive skills as well. Finally, your feedback should be limited. People can only absorb so much information at one time. Focus on the items that are of highest significance and, if changed, can create the most meaningful impact. Make sure that you only comment on things that a person is capable of changing and that you focus on someone's behavior and not their personality. Again, both of these things really go to that perception of objectivity versus subjectivity. And there's nothing more frustrating than receiving feedback about something that you cannot change. If your goal in providing feedback is to raise awareness of the action and promote change in the future, then providing it in a way that it is most likely to be received is the best way to achieve this goal. Keeping your feedback specific, balanced, and limited will hopefully lead to improved feedback conversations. Thank you, and good luck.